Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Moving to Florida show. I want to offer a big welcome to all of you aspiring Floridians, and we've got a great episode ahead of us. We've got some really good information on Florida mortgages with Vikki Rogers. She is a loan originator with Geneva Financial. We've worked together in the past, and she's always taken great care of my clients, is very knowledgeable. So we wanted to bring her on and have her tell you guys, what you need to know about getting a mortgage in Florida. So I am your host, Judson, along with co-host Mohit Balani.
Hey, guys.
So, and we've got Vikki on the line as well. Vikki, how are you today?
I am doing fantastic.
Fantastic. Well, good. So we did get a chance to chat just a little bit ahead of time, and we know that you and Mo are both from Chicago. So with that being said, before we get into all of the mortgage information, we'd like for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I'm married. I have 3 kids. They are a little bit older than your kids, 20, 22, and 24. I hate to age myself here in front of you, but that's the truth. And we've lived here now for 19 years in this area of Central Florida. We've actually lived in the same house. Because once we got down here, we never wanted to change schools. We always wanted to be in the same school zone. And then needless to say, 2 or 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools later, and a high school, we're still here in this house. So yes, I'm from Chicago. I grew up in the north suburbs, north of Chicago, and actually met my husband in high school. And Yes, we have a big anniversary coming up this year, but I went to University of Illinois for a brief stint, and then he had family in Florida and said, "Hey, why don't you transfer to the University of Florida?" And I said, "Hey, why not?" So I did attend UF. We went back to Illinois, started working in Georgia. That's where I started in the mortgage business. I had a finance degree from UF and learned all about stocks and arbitrage and all kinds of interesting corporate finance, and realized I had no clue about buying a home or what a mortgage meant. So when I had the opportunity to start working with a mortgage company, I took it. And a lot of people say once you fall into the mortgage business, you never fall out. So it's super exciting and flexible, and like I said, always something different going on. So I got into the mortgage business that way. But we went back to Illinois, where I had my 3 little ones, and then we were living in a very tiny, typical ranch Illinois home, 1,000 square feet, 3 little ones under the age of 5. I was working at home, processing from home, which is was kind of unheard of back then. But I was able to do it. And one day, we were trying to pay our high Illinois taxes on our little tiny house, about the same we pay now. And my husband said, "Do you want to try living in Florida for a change?" And I looked at him, and my whole family lived up there. And I was like, "Yeah, let's go for it. Let's just do it." So we literally packed up our kids and sold our home, and I left my family behind, which was kind of horrible because I stole the 3 little kids and their family from them. And we moved and made it to Florida the week before 9/11. So it was September 4th, 2001. And we actually stayed in Gainesville for 3 months, living with my mother-in-law. My husband commuted to Disney. He was an independent contractor and drove every day to Disney in our Ford Explorer with no air conditioning. Wow. And we started from Gainesville, coming down, looking, where did we want to live? Orlando's big. We didn't know anything about Orlando, even though we went to UF. So there's a lot of communities down here. And we looked at, everywhere, Lake Mary, Kissimmee, obviously West Orange County. And what happened was we were in Disney driving around, and we saw the giant, I think it's a Latter-day Saint church that's big and white and lit up every night. It was like a beacon, and we were driving north of Disney, and we came up to this area, and that's how we started driving around the Winter Garden, Ocoee area, which is where we live. So that's how we landed here. And we brought our 3 kids here, and we have never looked back. It was the greatest move, I think, ever, just because it is a fantastic place to raise a family. It feels very much at home because I don't know about you, Mohit, but, very diverse culture up in Illinois where we're from. Yeah. And I feel like it's the same here.
Very much so.
My neighbors are from all over the Midwest. and the Northeast. And the one thing about it that's really cool is that when my brother's a lot younger than I am, he's only 31. And when he comes down here to visit, he always comments that everyone here is so friendly. It's just such a friendly atmosphere, so much happier. I'm not going to say why it's not happy in Illinois, because I'm sure it is, but it is the happiest place on earth. Disney, he had it right. So that's pretty much, how we made it, how I landed here.
I hate to say this because everybody says this. It's like a melting pot down here, but it's such a cliche, but it is a melting pot down here, just like it was in Illinois.
No, you hit it on the head. I mean, it's not like we're military. And I say that because when we lived in Georgia, we lived at Warner Robins, which is an Air Force base. And my husband worked for a defense contractor. So, everybody talks about military. And actually his dad was in the military, my dad too. So, we talk about being transient in these areas that are transient. And Orlando's not military per se, but like you said, so culture driven, so global, so many people here from all walks of life, and not just different cultures. I mean, when we first moved here and I was at home during the day, I noticed people were home all the time. And I was like, does anybody work down here? And then I realized that people have so many different jobs, and they work nights and they work different days and they travel and they work at home. It's super exciting.
That's one of the things I've noticed too, when we talk about this being a melting pot. Not only is it people of different races and cultures and everything else, but even like you guys mentioned, you're both from Chicago and you've moved to Florida, and we have people moving that are originally, from all these different states all over our own country that have moved here as well.
Yep. They all want to come for get away from the snow.
Yeah, there you go.
Shoveling snow is terrible. I'm telling you, it's not fun at all. Well, I'll take rain over the snow any day.
For sure. Well, before we get into the mortgage information, one more question that we like to ask our guests are kind of, what do you like about living here in Central Florida? What do you like to do with your family and things like that?
So, it changes over the years, and I'll tell you guys that because I know, Mohit, you've lived here a long time. Judson, you haven't been here quite as long, but when your kids are younger, you do certain things, and then they get older, you kind of changes it up a little. So we have done a lot. I mean, when the kids were younger, we love the beach. We love the fact that we could go to the beach in December, and definitely do that and have fun there. But outdoor activities, and that was kind of one of the reasons we moved down here, was to be outside more. Even though it's hot, in the summer down here, you can still get outside in the evenings and enjoy it and, do whatever. But we were very active with Little League, softball and baseball. My girls, I have two girls and a boy, and we did softball and baseball. And not only did they play, but I coached Windermere Little League for around 5 or so years. And that's where I've met a lot of my good close friends. Also, one of my other realtor partners is from Chicago. She and I ended up coaching together. She lived in a place called Palatine, which was right next door to where I lived in Illinois. And we didn't know each other till we were down here coaching with each other. So we obviously, did a ton of volunteering with the high school, and with all the kids' activities when they were younger. We did a lot of that. Now that they're older, the West Orange Trail is a big deal in Central Florida. We love to bike. We're not necessarily cyclists, we're recreational riders, but a 13-mile ride takes about an hour. The West Orange Trail is great for running, just walking out there and doing that kind of stuff. The nature trails in Apopka that you can go on. We like to hike. And do that kind of stuff. And I know Judson he does paddle boarding and stuff. And I really, really, really want to start doing that. But trying to talk my girls into going in the water where there might be a gator is an issue, is a slight issue.
Well, there's definitely alligators.
Yeah, there is. But, just working outside is great too. You can do a ton of gardening and stuff down here. It's always amazing. I was in love with citrus when I moved here. I grew up with apples, apple trees, big deal. Mm-hmm. Cherry trees, who cares? Citrus trees, orange trees were the best. So I'm just amazed at how fast I can grow things down here. And I love to be outside doing that kind of stuff too. So basically the beach. That's my answer.
We're theme park people. At least my family's. We're theme park people, so that's one of the big reasons why we moved down to the west side, Hamlin area.
Yes. Well, my husband's Disney cast member. So that I totally omitted. See, there's so much, and I've been here so long. So when my kids were little, obviously that was what we would do. We would steal away to the parks when they were little for an hour or two because we were cast members. And then when we weren't cast members, we did get annual passes. We actually are Universal pass holders as well. We probably had Universal family passes for in excess of 10 years and only recently dropped the kids off as they've gone to college because Harry Potter makes those a little more expensive these days.
Yes, it does.
It does. But we still have ours. And SeaWorld was big when my kids were little. Had those all the time too. And I know SeaWorld, all of our friends work in the theme parks.
Right.
That's just how it is here. You know as well as I do. Service related industry. Yeah. I'm very excited to get travel back as soon as possible so that we can get everything up and running.
For sure. Well, on that note, before we really get into the mortgage stuff, we can talk a little bit about the market conditions because we are here, 4 or 5 months into the COVID-19 crisis in 2020. So, we try not to date the podcast too much, but I think it probably would be important to talk about kind of what's gone on and how that's affected the lending environment.
Absolutely. So I was thinking about that too. It started off very rocky, I would say, and pretty volatile, only because on top of the virus, we also had a big drop in interest rates. So we had a huge volume all of a sudden. So lending really turned upside down there for a little bit the first month or so. But as things have, as you know, as well as I do, real estate has done very well during this time. People still want to come here. They still want to buy homes. They're flying off the shelves basically. And, it's made it challenging, I assume, for the realtors, but also for the buyers trying to get in here and find a house because the inventories are low because everybody wants to get in here. But as far as lending goes, our rates finally have settled back down because at the very beginning, it was so volatile that they had kind of gone crazy. But now, obviously, I'm sure you've heard in the news, rates are super, super low. And that, of course, is driving business. So it's a great time. It makes it more affordable for people who are trying to buy. The house payment now is going to look a lot less than it did 6 months ago. They just have to find the house, of course. And then the other side of that is that they need to be working. We don't like to ignore the fact that, there's a lot of people out there that are, suffering without work right now. But things are improving every day, and people are getting back to work or finding other jobs. And that's good. I don't know if you are interested in knowing about furloughs or not, but, considering we've had a large amount of our population in Central Florida furloughed, the rules for that pretty much are that you cannot get a loan while you are furloughed, or at least you can't use that income, obviously. But as soon as you get back to work, if you're getting a conventional loan, you just need to be back at work, be able to show one pay stub, and be able to, your employer needs to just state that, there's no further expectations of your work being affected by COVID-19. And if you're getting an FHA loan, you need to be back at work with 2 pay stubs in the same language. So we've had quite a few people going back on that, which is good. The other thing that's been kind of affected with all of this has been forbearances. I don't know if you guys have heard much about it or talked much about it. But that was something that was offered pretty much in a blanket way. In the past, in the crash of 2008, when forbearances were offered, you had to prove hardship. This time you did not. So a lot of people didn't even want to necessarily skip a mortgage payment, but they were almost, automatically put into the program, in which case they found out that could be detrimental. So they, when they talked to us, we hurried up and said, nope, make that payment. Say you don't want it. Right. You don't want it to affect the future, but it's not the end of the world if you did do it. Say, for example, you went into forbearance, you missed your April payment, and you decided, okay, that's it, I'm going to make the rest. You made your other payments as planned. As long as you make 3 timely payments after the payment you missed, you can buy another home or refinance, and that's fine. So, okay. So there's, things, like I said, things were kind of rocky at first, but I feel like we've really kind of come out on the other side. Interest rates are forecast to be good for quite a long while. Now, they're not saying they're not going to be volatile, because they will. They're still going to tick up and tick down. They're saying that they might be, a little bit higher at the end of this year, but they're still forecasting next year to be good for rates. So I would say overall, I think when you're ready in a place you want to live, when you're settled and you want to buy, I think that's the right time more than waiting.
Well, I tell you what, I want to go back to furloughs. I really hadn't even considered this, but I have a theoretical for you. Say we've got a listener out there that lives, in Illinois or wherever, and they're on furlough right now, but they've been told, hey, you're coming back to work, or let's say they're going back to work, but they're working from home now. Their job has been moved to a permanent work from home position, because I think there are people out there that this is the case. And they can live wherever they want now. Could that person, they're say they're off of furlough, they're back to work, but they're working from home. Are they going to be able to get a mortgage in Florida?
Absolutely. So a good example of that would be somebody I have multiple people right now, actually, who, their companies are just based in other states. They always have been, actually, some of them, but one person in particular, I would say their job was in a place of business, and the employer actually has stated that their job can now be done remotely, and we have that in writing. Then there's no problem for them to come to the state of Florida if they want to move down here. We just get that letter from their employer stating that they can work from home, and their income, it's great then, because we don't even it's not even a new job. It's still their same job. We still document their income the same, 30 days worth of pay stubs, 2 years W-2s, and they're good to go. And just so you know too, that's actually, it's actually a pretty common thing for employers to not necessarily be located in the same town. And now we're going to see it more than ever. But
Right.
There were quite a few people that, in the professions that were working from home, and they could always, work anywhere they wanted to, which is ideal. And that's pretty much why you see so many people at home during the day in Florida, because they're working at home. So they go walk the dog at lunch.
Nice.
That's very true in my household. So going back to the company you work for Geneva Financial, is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So how does what differs from you guys? Because there's a lot of lending companies down here. How do you guys separate yourself in the market?
That's a very good question. I know it's very overwhelming when you see all the different lenders, and there's different types of lenders. There's bankers, there's brokers, and who do you want to go with? And, personally, I think it's important to, use referrals of people that have worked with other people. And I think the loan officer is really more important than the company they work for. Now, with that being said, I have to say one of my favorite books when I got out of college is called The Customer Always Comes Second. And that was a great book because it talked about how companies should treat their employees, that they're number one. Employees should be number one. You make your employees happy, then you make your customers happy. So, it took me a few tries to get to Geneva. Because I didn't work for like a little over 10 years. It was a gift to stay home with my kids for a little over 10 years before I got back into the business. And it's hard to find a company that has just the family feel of a company like I worked for starting in the 90s. Back then, mortgage companies were a lot smaller. So to find a company that really treats their employees well, and our company is, I really can't say enough good things, because it's a different environment. Our company is spread out across the country. Our corporate office is in Chandler, Arizona. We have a fantastic, partnership of a CFO and a COO that run the company together. And our motto for the company is be a good human. And they do a lot of good, initiatives towards that, charity. And, everyone even though we're all spread out, everyone still knows that we are helping people buy homes. And it's not just a transaction. We're trying to help, humans. We're trying to respect what they're doing and care about the fact that they need to close on time, or, they're moving across the country, or they're getting divorced, or something's going on in their lives. So we like to keep that in perspective while we're doing this transaction to help them out. So the fact that Geneva is such a good company to work for, just makes it easier for me to help my clients. So like I said, so what sets someone apart is, it's like I said, it's the loan officer you're choosing. Are they going to answer the phone when you call? Are they going to, be there on the weekends for you when you need them? How do they communicate with you? Do they take the time to have a conversation and understand your true needs? Because we're not just, helping with a transaction. We are debt managers. A mortgage is a big debt. And just because the rates, one rate's lower than another doesn't mean it's better for you. There's different loan programs, and sometimes they have lower payments, or sometimes they're trying to, establish goals or, attain those goals that are different. So you need to know that you work with a loan officer that really understands your needs and what you're trying to accomplish. And then you want to be able to get along with them. Not everyone gets along with everyone. As much as if we take it personally, because we're like, oh, if one person doesn't call us back, we can't help everyone. We have to remember that. Certain people get along with other people better, and that's fine, because there's a lot of us in Central Florida. I never knew how many people lived here until I moved here. So there's a lot of people to help, for sure. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love that business model.
Yeah, I do too, for sure.
So I think one of the maybe common myths out there is that you need 20% down to get a home loan. Is that true?
Thank you.
What? You don't need 20%?
That's actually, so in our home buyer seminar, that's actually like one of the first things we talk about. One of the two biggies. Yes, you don't need to have 20% down to buy a house. Is it nice to? Sure, it'd be great if everyone could. But if I had spent all my early young years when I first got married to try to save 20% to buy a house, I don't know how long it would have taken us. My first loan was an FHA mortgage. And FHA mortgages have kind of a dirty connotation with them. People always think that they're bad loans for some reason, but they're just not. They really are just good first-time home buyer loans, because you only need 3.5% down. Your income doesn't quite have to be quite as high, because it allows your debt to income ratio to be a little higher. And it's really not just for first-time home buyers. A good thing to keep in mind is a lot of times it's for older people. Say somebody has all their kids in college, and they've like co-signed on a bunch of their car loans, and their ratios are super high. They need to downsize into another house. Sometimes they have to go FHA just because of the fact that they're helping out their kids or their parents even with other loans. So there's FHAs, only 3.5% down. Since back in the day when I bought my house, Fannie Mae's decided to step it up, and they have a 3% down mortgage. That one is geared towards a first-time home buyer. A great program if you can fit into it. They have one that's for if your income's under a certain level, around 52.5 in our area. And they still have another one too that your income doesn't matter at all. So that's a great program. And then there's, if anyone's a veteran, I have a couple of VA loans going right now. Of course, a VA loan has always been fantastic because they do not need any down payment. They still need closing costs, but no down payment required. And then USDA is, it's not just a little label on steaks or, agriculture. Right. It actually is, just property that's considered a little bit more rural. You're not going to find it in downtown Orlando, down by Lake Eola. That's not going to happen. But when you start getting away from the city limits a little bit, you'd be surprised. Over in the east side, more Christmassy in Bithlo, and then come over here in Claremont and certain areas, Groveland. A lot of properties are USDA determined, and it's determined by the zip code of the and the address of the property. It has to be the address of the property because it's specific to that specific house. One house across the street might be USDA, the other one might not. But if it falls in that qualification, it's 100% financing, so no down payment required. That one does have income limits. They all have limits about ratios, debt to income ratio limits, and all that kind of stuff. But that's our job, to just get a client's information and see if they fall into that and try to fit them into whatever program. Like I said, do they have enough money to put down? Do they need help with funds? So those are all great options. And, the one thing that everybody has a problem with 20% down is they think they need it because they don't want to pay the evil mortgage insurance. But you know what?
PMI.
Mortgage insurance is not evil. PMI is not the worst. With an FHA loan, that mortgage insurance stays with it for the life of the loan, but it is not a long-term loan. FHA loan is not meant to carry you 30 years. You're only supposed to have it until a certain amount. When your house appreciates enough or you pay that loan down to a certain amount, you go and you refinance it into a conventional loan where you don't have mortgage insurance any longer. And when you have a conventional loan with PMI, it's naturally, if you do stay in that house, when it falls to a certain level, 80% or lower, it's automatically at 78. And appreciation in our area has been so huge. I've seen multiple people in 2 or 3 years have been able to eliminate the PMI from their mortgage. So there's, you just don't need 20% down, anymore. There's no reason. And we have all kinds of great like graphs and visuals to help customers see the cost of waiting. I can either buy now, or if I wait and save that 20%, here's what it looks like. And in the end, they're almost always losing money. It always pays to buy sooner because of appreciation, which is forecast to continue, by the way.
I know you touched a little bit on this earlier. DTI, debt to income ratio. A lot of people are confused. What does that mean? What is debt to income ratio, and what does that look like?
So what we look at is we, as lenders, so I'll just go back a little bit. We pull your credit report, not only for your credit score. Everyone thinks the credit score is the end all be all, but it's not just that. We need that credit report because we need to see your score, but we also need to see what kind of monthly obligations you have: student loans, car loans, credit cards. We don't care about your utility bills or your cell phone or anything like that. We do care about child support and alimony. That is not on the credit. We do care about those. But basically, we're looking at that credit report to see what kind of debts you have. So we take those monthly obligations, your car loan, your 2 credit cards, your 2 student loans. We add that monthly amount to your proposed housing payment. We divide it by your gross income. And that has to give us a certain number. So just for example, FHA allows us to go as high on a debt to income ratio as about 55.9%, I would say. Conventional has gotten a little higher. Sometimes it's 45. Sometimes it can be 48, depending on the loan to value of the property. So that's what we're looking at when we do ratios. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for clearing that up.
I think we've kind of run the gamut and covered a little bit of everything. I know, discussing the different types of loans and programs is very complicated if you really get down into it. So I'm sure if we, wanted Vikki to go into that in depth, we could be here for another 2 hours. So I think with that, I would like to ask Vikki, are you able to do mortgages all over Florida? Is it just here in the Central Florida region where we are?
Yes. Nope. So I am licensed in the whole state of Florida, and I do loans all over the whole state. So we do loans in South Florida, Fort Myers, Sebastian. I have one going on, Jacksonville, Panhandle, anywhere in the state of Florida, we're licensed. I do have colleagues across the country who are licensed in other states. I pretty much concentrate in Florida. And that, I have to say, I'll touch base on one thing you mentioned about what makes certain lenders different from others. And I was just going to say one thing that is different about a lending institution like a mortgage bank or a broker versus a bank is that a lot of times this is all we do. Like, this is all we do is mortgages 24/7 all day long. In fact, yes, I do dream about them, I have to say. And it's just because it is, it can be a stressful job. But it's such a good feeling in the end that it's worth the stress. But a lot of times when you're dealing with banks and credit unions, sometimes, they have other things going on. And it just, can make the transaction a little bit different. So that's all I wanted to touch on that really quick.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think it's important to note, a lot of people believe that the first step in buying a home is to get out and look at homes. And of course, these days, everybody's looking on Zillow and Realtor.com and all of these other websites, which is just fine. But, as a realtor, I do have to point out that your first and most important step should be talking to a mortgage loan originator, because you don't want to be looking at $300,000 houses and falling in love with the house only to find out you can only qualify for a $200,000 house. So, with that being said, Vikki, if somebody wanted to talk to you about getting a loan in Florida for a home, what's the best way for them to reach you?
The best way to reach me is probably a website. It's loans by Vikki, VIKKI.com. My phone number is, can I give my phone number? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
It's 407-729-5200. And Judson, I just have to say that's the best piece of advice that you can give anyone. That is also in our seminar. That's super important, because I don't care if you're ready to buy this minute or if you're ready to buy in 3 years from now. The best thing you can do to help yourself in planning is just to see where you are. And that's what we are. We're kind of like mortgage planners, because we do pride ourselves on education, teaching, people about the process, and how it works, and showing them what they need. If they're not ready yet, what they need to do. And it can take, and we work with customers over the course of months or years until they're actually ready to buy. But that's part, but we're happy to do it, because this is not just something where you walk into Amazon and you buy it and you order it and you're done. This is something that takes a long time, and it's a big puzzle with a lot of moving pieces. And it's important for you to have a good mortgage lender and a realtor to work as a team together, so that everybody is on the same page and working towards the same goal.
Very well said.
Fantastic. Well said.
Just want to put that out there.
No, absolutely. All right, Vikki. Well, we want to thank you so much for coming on to the show and talking with us today, educating us all on getting a mortgage
we really
in Florida.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
If you'd like to connect with us about your move to Florida, you can reach us at movingtofloridashow@gmail.com. You can also connect with us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at movingtofloridashow. And for Twitter, our handle is at movingtoflshow. Be sure to subscribe to the show if you like our content, so that it will automatically be downloaded to your device and get you one step closer to moving to Florida.
We'll also have Vikki's description and her contact information in our description.